Today we're going to talk a little bit about electric guitar basics. All the basic stuff that nobody really bothers to show you. So I'm going to show you everything. Now, first thing you should know is get a good amp. If you can afford it, try to get a tube amp, something that actually runs on tubes, not a hybrid amp like a Marshall valve state. You know, you get something like I have a Marshall DSL series. It's a DSL 40C. It's a budget Marshall. It's made in Indonesia, not in England, but it does the trick. I find that if you get a booster pedal and just boost it, it sounds better than using its regular onboard overdrive. That was a trick I found. So I set it to just the tiniest bit of distortion, and then I hit the boost pedal and turned that up very loud. So what's happening is the signal going from here into the amp is extremely loud. Then what you can just do is just adjust the volume, but the thing that's going from here to there is loud. What's coming out of there you could always turn down. So you're distorting your amp with lots of volume instead of using distortion and overdrive pedals. You wind up getting more dynamics, and you could feel the loud, the low, you know, like. You know, dynamics. You know what I'm saying? Loud and low. It sounds better. Okay, so let's get down to some basics. Cable directly into your guitar tuner. You must get a guitar tuner. I'm using a Strobe Tuner. It's called the Peterson Strobe Stomp HD. The Strobe Stomp HD is excellent. It has a little wheel and it's very, very sensitive. It never actually stops on a note because, you know, just touching it's so sensitive, just playing it makes it jump. So you get it so it's pretty stable, pretty much stable, and that's super stable compared to any other tuner. So you tune up, you make sure everything's in tune. You could always turn off your volume when you're tuning by just hitting a switch on it. The red light is on, you tune silently. It's a mute switch, so you could tune on stage in between songs without anybody hearing you go dun 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 dun. Tune up. That is the mark of a novice. They don't tune well. So tune. What I do is when I want to go lower, I pull my string. I stretch it. When I want to go higher, I tune it up. When I'm sharp, too high, I stretch a little. Goes down. Okay. First thing you do, you got to have some reverb. Buy an amp with some reverb on it. If the reverb on your amp stinks, like this DSL has pretty lousy reverb on it, even when I turn it up to 10, it just stinks, so you can barely hear it. So, you know, I bought myself a reverb pedal. Okay, so here's no reverb. Here's the reverb. You ready? Gives you some warmth and presence in the room. Totally dry. With reverb. You don't need a lot, just a little. I use two reverbs. One is always on, like all the time. That's this one. You can barely tell it's on most of the time. Then I have a second one, a Walrus Audio Fathom. The first one is a wet reverb, W-E-T, by Neunaber technology. That one. Always on. Then I add this for my spacey parts and stuff when I want to go higher reverb. decay is how long the reverb trail lasts. On the wet, they call it the depth. So that's how long the trail lasts. Really long. If you want it to be short, it's less noticeable and it's very classy. It's a nice way. You just turn the decay down. Let's turn it down. Short decay. Longer. Very long. Too long. That's for special effects. I don't use that all the time. It's just for space and stuff. The plate reverb. It has modulation too if I want to add modulation. It's like a seasick thing. Like keep the modulation low. Okay, now my boost pedals are on now. If I turn my boosts off, this is what's coming out of my amp naturally. So what I do, first thing I do is I got my reverb set, okay? I set the Marshall amp so it's just a tiny bit dirty, a little bit. The smallest amount of dirt you could get so you hear it's dirty. So you got to pound on it a little bit. Keep digging into it till you hear distortion. Turn it up more. Okay, barely distorting, right? A little more. Always keep your treble at 10. Presence at 10. Those are, presence is super treble. It's the highest, like the pick noise and stuff. I like that stuff up high. It helps you to jangle a little bit. You could pull out some bass on the bass contour if you have a Reverend. So pull out my bass now. It makes it twang a little more. Okay. The Marshall's okay, but if I hit a boost now, this is Mr. Boost from Greenchild. It's probably my #1 favorite pedal because it makes my tone sound good. Like with a cheap amp, it makes it sound good no matter where I am. So it's a simple pedal. It's not really an effect, but it's just EQ'd so perfectly that when I hit this, it's like instant rock and roll tone. So Mr. Boost by Greenchild. There's a sale now. I think he's giving it away free when you buy his overdrive pedal. This one called the Clazo Drive. So if you're looking for a good deal right now, Greenchild is selling. Yeah, his Mr. Boost is free. It's like a $100 pedal or something or more with like this $160 overdrive, which is also kick-ass. So, all right. That's my naked tone from the Marshall. Here's Mr. Boost. Tone is killer, right? But there's something missing. For me, I like a lot of high ends. Okay, I like it to really jangle. So what I'm missing personally is a little bit more of a bump in the treble area. So I bought something called the Option 5, that's the company, Option 5 Destination Bump. It's a cheap boost that nobody seems to really want anymore. So it's like a secret thing. You buy it on Reverb.com used for like nothing. You know, I got this thing super cheap. I think it was like 50 bucks or something. And it just so happens that Joe Perry has it on his board. So, you know, I'm looking at the rig rundown from Aerosmith, and he's got this little bump boost on there. And I looked it up. He had another one, a Duesenberg boost, which happens to go for like 300 bucks. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to get that. But then he had this one. Nobody seems to like Option 5 pedals except for this one thing that, you know, imitates a Leslie. They have a really hot Leslie, yeah, simulator pedal. But the bump boost gives you more treble, and that's basically makes your guitar sound more like a Rickenbacker or a twangy kind of trebly Telecaster. It just adds this nicely EQ'd jangle to the top. They should call it the jangle box, but there's another effect called the jangle box by somebody else. Let me tune up a little, something's out. Sharp. Flat. Okay. Add the bump. It gives it snap. You notice that, right? Lots of snap. No bump boost. Take it off. It's subtle. It's very subtle. Ooh, what was that? Oh, that was bad. It's bright. Let's check the tuning again. Something was off. Tuning. It's sharp. I'm pulling the E string and stretching it. Might be my technique, but it's always good to stretch strings. If there's tension in them, there's slack in them, you want to get that slack out. Flat. My strings are very old. Generally this guitar doesn't go out of tune at all, but it's old strings. Okay, so let's turn down a little now. So the thing is, you can keep your heaviest, most distorted sound when your volume is at 10, okay? When you want to keep it down, you turn your distortion and gain down by just lowering your volume. So your regular rhythm tone might be with your guitar at like 8. You put this almost all the way up. It warms it up a little bit, and it also gives you that ability to turn up to 10 if you need to play a solo or you just need to get a little heavier. So a lot of people do that, I think. Play the clean part like that with the volume on 8. Then when you get to the heavy part, you turn it up. You get the idea. Volume dial on 8, Great tip. Here's something invaluable. Okay, you got to know this thing. If you don't know about this, do it. Anybody who doesn't do it is doomed. What happens is this thing jiggles your output, and you start getting loose jacks. And the only way to tighten that is with this special little bullet tool. Otherwise, you got to take the thing apart and everything. What happens is your guitar stops playing because the wires inside just come loose from the jack. So if you do this, your guitar will stop playing like right before a gig, in the middle of a gig or something like that. And if you just take your guitar, when you're putting it on, feed the cable through there, through the loop, grab it on the outside, and then put it in that guitar. So in other words, feed it through the loop, plug in. So that way, your guitar is never really pulling. There's no tension on here. Nothing moves, nothing jiggles, unless you play with it like I just did. You shouldn't. And that jack will never come out. The guitar will always stay cool. Sometimes it happens anyway, so you buy this little tool, a jack tightening thing. It looks like a little bullet. They work really well, actually. But you can't wait too long. As soon as it starts getting loose and jiggling, you got to fix it right away. Alright, here's another trick. The always-on delay. A lot of pros do this. It just gives you polish. Like Van Halen used to have his sound like intact. As soon as he plugged in, he always had his little bit of delay, his little bit of distortion, his little bit of reverb on there. So, in other words, when you plug into your amp, have everything polished the way you like it. Little reverb and a little touch of delay. Hear that? Now you want it to the point where the delay is not so strong that it gets in the way of what you're playing. You definitely don't want that. Let me see if I can angle this up more so you can see my face. Yeah, it's a little better. Okay. Now, you test it by doing this. Just mute the strings here. I like it something like I used to I think I used to do Staying Alive. That's a good. Well, you can tell on the way I walk. Something like that. That's a little faster. Yeah, it's a little faster than Staying Alive. It's more like Ooga Chaka. Ooga Chaka, Ooga Chaka, I can't find that feeling. That song. It's called Hooked on a Feeling. Ooga Chaka, Ooga Chaka, da 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 da. It's actually a little slower than the Ooga Chaka, so I go for that, then I slow it down a notch less. So it's not as slow as Staying Alive, it's not as fast as the Ooga Chaka, but it's closer to the Ooga Chaka. Slow Ooga Chakas. Ooga Chaka, a little faster. Chaka, faster. Ooga Chaka, Ooga Chaka. Chaka, Ooga Chaka. There we go. Then you want to turn the level of the delay. Okay, that was the rate or the speed of the effect. The feedback is how many delays you get. So if I turn the feedback all the way off, it's one repeat, like this. I turn it up a little higher, it's like 2 repeats or something, 2.5, I like a few repeats. Da, 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 da. Just like a little trail. So that way, every time you play a note, there's this little trail behind it, but you don't want it so big that it's like, so strong that it's like this constant, bouncing of rhythms, and you don't want it to get in the way of your playing. So the idea is to turn the level of the delay effect, or the mix, as low as you can, where you can still hear it. You want to still hear it, but just barely. So. See if we can go further down. Less feedback, not so many repeats. We Go lower. Alright. So for the most part, the delay is not getting in the way of anything. It's like 90% the fundamental, signal that you're hitting. The delay is very mixed back, as mixed back as you could get it and still hear it. Go a little faster. Let's go to full Ogachucka. So when you go down, it's like a trail. Sounds better on leads than rhythm. You might want some sort of a dirt pedal to give you more gain. Gain is the amount of distortion you've got. It could be super low and be called overdrive, or be very high gain and be called distortion. Or it could be very, very, very low and they could call it other things like boost, or what do they call it? Clean boost is another word for it now. Dirty boost? I forgot. But if it's sounding too muddy, turn down that delay. You don't want to ruin the snappiness. There's a certain snap of not having the delay. So if it's not snapping, you got too much up. So that's my always on delay. I have other delays that I use more like, I guess, special effects. So when I'm getting a little spacey, I might hit my reverb. My more spacey reverb, that is, my ambient reverb. And then I'll hit my other delay. I have an Amnesia delay by Alexander, which has some vibrato in it. So it's a copy of an old analog effect called the Electro-Harmonix Deluxe Memory Man. The Memory Mans are like this big. It's half the size of my board. So this is smaller. Okay, reverb off. This is just a delay. So this is different from the first always on delay. This one I want to really hear the delay. It's a special effect. So when I'm getting a little spacey, or if I'm doing a screaming lead, I could just put that on and it helps, I have it up a lot. Let's turn it back down a little bit. Let's turn the vibrato up now too. Vibrato now. Change the time on it. Very slow. You can kind of play along with yourself in a way. Is a good tool to get as a newfound player to play with. It's interesting and it gives you a lot of fun stuff to do. So I'm going to set this back the way I usually have this. Faster. Not so much of an echo, more of a, just makes me sound very deep, you know. Yeah, that's cool, just like that. Okay. Let me take that off. I'm going to show you the phase shifter. Phase shifter is a modulation effect. Generally you have one modulation effect. We do it for clean tones, so your clean tones don't sound too plain. Here's a clean chord. So sometimes in a concert or a recording scenario that just sounds too plain. You notice the out-of-tuneness of it, the mistakes. So you turn on some modulation, makes your clean tone watery and interesting. This is a grand orbiter phaser from Earthquaker Devices. There's certainly cheaper ones out there. Now sometimes I'll also use this Nobel's ODR1. It's a green effect. It looks a lot like a tube screamer. It's similar. A lot of country musicians use these. I use that for a little bit more dirt when I have, I don't know, like a hard rock solo, or I want to do a kind of a Jerry space thing. I hit that. It's just heavier. Something like this. With the reverb, it's really cool. Usually I have enough distortion without using pedals. I just use my boosts. I rarely use that thing. I use it sometimes when I'm doing you know, solos and I need a little bit more kick for more volume or some more gain or just, you know, a little more sustain. I hit it, but rarely. One of my most used effects, it's kind of like one of my trademark sounds, is this M5 pedal. It's a big black effect here. Very heavy and big. It has a particular reverse effect that I love a lot. If you ever watch my playing, you'll definitely recognize it. I use it a lot. So it's kind of like this. Listen. Psychedelic kind of thing. You can mix it with other effects. Here's the phaser and the amnesia delay. chords, you don't hear it that much, so it's really cool, like this. Okay, listen. Turn the mix down a little. It's very subtle and very beautiful, I think. A couple of other effects here. The bicycle is another one I used. The cattle inbred bicycle delay, which is totally unique. It has some sort of a repeating, like, I don't know what you would call it, overtones. Ring modulation. There's a ring modulator in there. Reverb too. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about the wah-wah pedal. Now the wah-wah pedal is often misunderstood. It's the kind of effect that you can use for many, many different things. The typical, you know, there's all sorts of cliches. Shaft kind of stuff, you know. There's a very kind of, you know, typical Hendrix kind of, you know, like. But there's all sorts of uses for it. Sometimes you could just set a cool tone. What you do is, okay, Okay, so if you have your tone. Alright, let me turn on a little drive. Okay. Typical lead tone. You turn on your wah-wah and you can cock it back into a certain place where you find the perfect odd sort of zappa-ish tone. And then you could use it to accent rather than to do the wow-wow. Just to a little accent. Like. You just accent what you want. Hit a little reverb, a little bit of delay, and you can do some incredible. That's the wah-wah giving me that cool tone. Let's try a different spot. Take the reverb off, delay off. Great tones. It also helps to give you sustain. If you just don't wah wah wah, but just work the pedal. Go forward when you need a little more sustain. Go back, sometimes it helps it. No pedal. See? Less sustain. With pedal. Find the spot. Wah-wah can do a lot of different things like that. You could also do the things where you go super fast, which is cool too. Turn off the distortion. And you do a kind of a no quarter sound, like a. A lot of people do that. You just gotta go super fast, like with your foot, almost like this. Almost like nervous wiggling foot. Like, kind of like a Leslie or a Wurlitzer. Showing you all my secrets. I have a Mellotron pedal here that adds a little keyboards or orchestra behind my signal. It's very strange. Turn that Mellotron off. I'll show you my theremin simulator. Very rare pedal, hard to find, but you can get it. I can tell you where. To control this pedal, it's tricky. Okay, one or two left here, not a lot. The auto wop. Gotta have everything set right for auto wop. Auto wop pedal is this Snow White auto wop by Mad Professor. Some other things that we really need to learn as a beginner, I think, is getting a sound from your amp. Now I'm going to turn off my boosts here. Let's turn this one off. This one. Now if I put everything at top, 12 o'clock, the first thing you want to do is adjust your gain versus your volume. So stick your gain up to maybe 2 or 4 or something. That's how much distortion it's going to get, and it's also going to magnify your volume dial by like a lot. So I'm going to start at 4. The gain is going to change if you have single coils or humbuckers. A more powerful guitar is going to need less gain. A weaker guitar like a Strat or something is going to need more gain. So the gain knob needs to change sometimes. What I do is I give it a little volume, put it on like 1.5 or 1, whatever. And then I start working with my gain knob to try to find just the tiniest bit of dirt. So it sounds a little dirty, but you got to dig into it. You can't do like this. You got to... Also, volume and tone has to be at 10, otherwise you're taking distortion off. A little less. I got there is basically the edge of breakup. The edge of breakup is a good place to put a tube amp. You basically want it just barely distorting. Okay, let's bring in Mr. Boost, my first clean boost. Tone is much better. Let's bring my volume down. Volume will adjust how loud it is. Gain, how much distortion I have. So as you add boost and the volume going up, you can tame it by using the volume knob. I also like to keep my volume here just a little down, like on 8 or 9 or something. Okay, if you're a treble freak, keep it all the way at the top because it'll be brightest and snappiest with everything up. Alright, let's add the second boost. Destination bump. This will give me more high end, a little more treble. Okay, a little too dirty. Let's turn off the reverb, turn off the delay. Treble. Treble's still at, okay, I'm putting my treble at 10, I'm putting my bass at 10, and I'm putting my presence at 10. Now, I'm going to work my mid-range. Mid-range I like somewhere between 3 and 6 or something like that. Not all the way up, not all the way down. So you want it to sound snappy, bright, yet kind of full, I guess. And not muddy full, but clear with a nice low, robust end, bottom end. So I bring my low end in later with my bass contour on the Reverend. That's why the Reverends are sort of better than like other guitars, because they have a bass contours. So with the regular volume, what you're doing is you're taking off treble and brightness, okay? With this, you're adding bottom. So you could adjust the top and the bottom with the Reverend. So they're kind of cool. Okay, it's a little too much distortion for me. Let's pull this gain down just a bit. Bring in the reverb. A little more. You hear that? Let's bring in the delay. This is my Ranger Effects Echo X. Dirt. Okay, the reverb sounds like it's lasting too long. Let's cut the decay. To me, that makes it sound muddy. Yeah, it's a nice, clear, subtle reverb. Try a little more tail on the reverb. Let's bring in the delay. My delay also has a boost in it. So you gotta hear a little more robust sound when I hit it. Perfect. That sounds too heavy for me. Let's try like this now. I like the effect, but it's too much. So let's bring the mix down. It's lasting too long. Turn the feedback down. That's how long it lasts. And turn the mix and the depth down a little bit too. Way too much. I don't like it. Okay, let's bring it in less. Less. So this stuff works better with spacey parts, you know? The reverb. Lasting a little too long, but I like the subtlety of it. Now let's bring in a bicycle delay, which is one of my more weirder effects, but kind of trademarky, so I like to use it a lot. Bring it down even more. There, we're getting a little of the bicycle now. It's like a pulse, kind of. There we go. Let's tune it a little higher. Okay, I like it. Okay, now we're ready to put everything on. We're all spacey now. Okay, here we go.